Hello, my dear ones. My name is Margaret. I'm 65 years old, and I have to tell you a story that completely changed my life. A story about betrayal, loneliness, and in the end, sweet, sweet revenge. Stay with me until the very end, because I promise you won't believe how this story turns out. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered what happens when the people you love the most abandon you in your darkest hours? Today I'm going to tell you exactly that, and how I taught them a lesson they will never forget. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and if you like my story, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It all began 3 years ago, when my beloved husband Heinrich passed away after 40 years of marriage. We had built a beautiful life together, a big house in Munich-Bergenhausen, a little vacation apartment at Lake Tegernsee. And yes, we had saved up a good amount of money too. Heinrich had worked as an engineer at BMW, and I had spent years working as an accountant until our children were born. We raised 3 wonderful kids. Klaus, now 42, a successful lawyer in Hamburg. Petra, 39, a doctor in Frankfurt, and Thomas, our youngest at 35, who runs a small software company in Berlin. All 3 had studied, all 3 had become successful, and Heinrich and I were so proud of them. After Heinrich's death, I felt like a ship without an anchor. The big house suddenly was far too quiet, far too empty. The kids did come to the funeral, but after that, well, everyone had their own lives, right? Klaus maybe called once a month, usually just to ask if everything was okay. Petra occasionally sent WhatsApp messages with pictures of her own children, my grandkids, whom I barely ever saw. And Thomas, he was always too busy with his startup, too stressed to visit his old mother. I understood that, truly. They had their own lives, their own worries. But it still hurt. The months passed, and I felt loneliness gnawing at me. I tried to distract myself, went to the senior centre, met up with old friends, took care of the garden. But at night, when I lay alone in our big bed, I felt like the loneliest person in the world. Sometimes I cried myself to sleep, wondering if my children even noticed how lonely I was. But I didn't want to be the whining mother who bothers her adult kids. So I stayed silent and hoped they would come on their own. Then came that fateful Thursday in November last year. I remember it so clearly. It was a grey, rainy day, and I already felt strangely weak all morning. I had strong chest pains, but I thought it was just grief for Heinrich showing up physically. By noon, though, the pain was so severe I could barely breathe. I knew immediately something was wrong. With trembling hands I dialed 112, and 20 minutes later I was already lying in the ambulance on my way to Klinikum Rechts der Isar. The doctors diagnosed a severe heart attack. I spent 3 days in intensive care, hovering between life and death. The nurses were angels, especially a young woman named Anna Kowalski. Anna was only 28 years old, originally from Poland, but spoke perfect German. She had these warm brown eyes and the gentlest way of dealing with patients. In those first critical days, when I didn't know if I'd live to see the next morning, Anna was the one holding my hand whenever the panic attacks came. She was the one encouraging me when I wanted to give up, and my children. Of course, I had given the clinic all the emergency contacts. Klaus, Petra, and Thomas were immediately notified that their mother had suffered a severe heart attack and was in intensive care. And what do you think happened next? Exactly, absolutely nothing. Not one of them came. Klaus called on the second day, not to ask how I was, but to find out if I had made a will. Can you imagine? His mother lying at death's door, and he's worried about the inheritance. Petra sent a WhatsApp message. "Mom, I hope you feel better soon. I'm unfortunately at an important conference in Vienna and can't get away. Thomas? I heard nothing at all. His phone was switched off. His emails went unanswered. Day after day, I lay in that sterile hospital bed, staring at the white ceiling and waiting. Waiting for a familiar face, for a loving hug, for anyone from my family to show that my life meant something to them. But no one came. Only Anna, who stopped by every single day, even when she wasn't scheduled to work. She brought me homemade cookies, told me stories about her grandmother back in Poland, and sometimes we just sat in silence while she held my hand. This young woman, who had only known me for a few days, showed me more love and care than my own children. In the second week, as I slowly began to recover and was moved to a regular ward, I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. I asked Anna to get Dr. Weber, the emergency doctor I had known for years. Heinrich and I had stored all our important documents with him. When Dr. Weber arrived, I told him I wanted to change my will, immediately. He looked at me with worried eyes and asked if I was sure. I was more certain than I had ever been in my life. But wait, you probably think I simply left everything to Anna, right? Oh no, my dear ones, it wasn't that simple. I'm a clever old woman, and revenge is a dish best served cold. Very cold. I had a much more sophisticated plan. I changed my will so that Anna would indeed inherit the majority of my assets. The house, the vacation apartment, the bank account with over 800,000 euros. But that was only the first part of my plan. The second part, you would never guess in 1,000 years. After 3 weeks in the hospital, I was finally allowed to go home. Anna helped me organize everything. She even took time off work to drive me home and make sure everything was fine. Imagine that. An almost stranger cared more about me than my own children. When we arrived at my house, I broke down and cried. Not from pain, but from gratitude. Anna hugged me and said, "Mrs. Zimmerman, you are not alone. I'll be here whenever you need me." In the following weeks, Anna became like a daughter to me. She came by 2 or 3 times a week, helped me with shopping, sometimes cooked for me, and we talked for hours. She told me about her family in Poland, about her dreams of maybe studying medicine one day, about her financial struggles because she supported her sick mother back home. I listened to her and thought the whole time, this is the child I deserved. This is the daughter my own children should have been. My real children? They called occasionally, shallow, dutiful. "How are you, Mum? Do you need anything?" But when I told them how lonely I was, how much I missed them, they grew impatient. Klaus once said, "Mom, you can't expect us to give up our whole lives for you." Petra said, "You could just hire a cleaning lady or someone to help you." Thomas completely ignored my emotional appeals and always quickly changed the subject to his business or the weather. But then, oh my dear ones, something wonderful happened. And now the story gets really interesting. So stay tuned, and don't forget to hit the little bell so you won't miss any of my stories. It was March this year when I decided to put the second part of my revenge plan into action. I called all 3 children and invited them to a family meeting. "It's important," I told each of them. "I want to talk with you about my future, about financial matters." The phrase financial matters was like a magic word. Suddenly everyone had time. Klaus cancelled his important client appointments. Petra rescheduled her surgeries. Thomas let his startup run itself for a day. Interesting, isn't it, that they had time for money but not for their dying mother in the hospital? On a sunny Saturday in March, they all gathered in our living room. I had asked Anna to be there too, but to wait in the next room until I called her. The kids sat on the couch like 3 vultures waiting for the wounded animal to finally die. Klaus, always the lawyer, even brought a notepad. They all smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile of love. It was the calculating smile of greed. "Children," I began, settling myself into Heinrich's old armchair. "I'm getting old, and after the heart attack I know my time is limited. I want to talk with you about my will." Their eyes lit up. Klaus leaned forward, Petra smiled sweetly, and Thomas even put his phone away. A real miracle. "I know you're all successful in earning your own money," I continued. "But your father and I saved up a nice fortune, and this house alone is worth over $1 million. "Mom," Klaus interrupted, "you don't need to worry. We'll take care of everything. You know we love you." Petra nodded eagerly. "Yes, Mom, we're always here for you." Thomas added, "Exactly, family is the most important thing." I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. Now that it was about money, suddenly I was their beloved mother again. "I'm glad to hear that," I said with a sweet smile, "especially after the past months when I sometimes felt a little forgotten." Klaus waved it off. "Mom, you know how busy we all are." Petra added, "We didn't forget you. We just have so much to do." Thomas nodded. "Yeah, modern life is just stressful." "Oh, I understand that completely," I said. "For example, when I had the heart attack in November and spent 3 weeks in the hospital. You were all so busy that you couldn't come." The mood in the room shifted instantly. Klaus cleared his throat. "Mum, we did call—" "Petra was at an important conference," he added, glancing at his sister. "And I had those important negotiations," Thomas muttered awkwardly. "Of course," I said. "You all had important commitments, more important than your mother, who didn't know if she would live to see the next day." The silence was deafening. Klaus tried to protest. "Mom, that's not how it was." But I raised my hand. "Let me finish. I want to introduce you to someone who will show you what true love and devotion mean." I called Anna in. When she entered the room, my children looked at her in confusion. "This is Anna Kowalski," I introduced. "She was my nurse in the hospital, and since then she has been my angel on earth." Anna smiled shyly and sat beside me. Klaus frowned. "Mom, what does this have to do with our talk about the will?" "Everything," I said, savouring every second. "You see, while you were all too busy to visit your dying mother, Anna was there. She held my hand when I was afraid. She stayed with me at night when I couldn't sleep. She brought me homemade cookies and stories from her homeland. She showed me what it means to be loved, not because of money that might be inherited, but simply as a human being." Petra turned pale. "Mum, are you saying—" "That's exactly what I'm saying," I cut her off. "Anna will be my main heir. She gets the house, the vacation apartment, the bank account, everything." Thomas jumped up. "You can't do that. We're your children." Klaus, the lawyer, immediately switched into battle mode. "Mom, that's not legal. You're emotionally confused after the heart attack, but I wasn't done yet. Oh no, the best part was still to come." "Calm down," I said with a smile. "I'm not completely heartless. Each of you will get something too." Their faces lit up. "Klaus, you get my old camera, the one we used to take your childhood photos back when you were still innocent and loving. Petra, you get my collection of cookbooks. Maybe you'll finally learn how to create a home where people feel loved. And Thomas, you get your father's old watch, so you might learn how valuable time is, and that it should be spent with the people you love." The explosion of outrage was spectacular. Klaus shouted that he would contest the will. Petra cried and accused me of being a terrible mother. Thomas grew angry and said I had gone insane. Anna sat quietly, visibly shocked and overwhelmed. I stood up and said calmly, "You can leave. The conversation is over." And by the way, Anna knew nothing about this. I made this decision entirely on my own. When they left, all three without a word of goodbye, without a hug, I sat with Anna, who was crying. "Mrs. Zimmerman," she sobbed, "I can't accept this. This is your fortune for your family." I took her hands in mine. "Anna, you are my family. You showed me what unconditional love is. And besides," I added with a mischievous smile, "my plan isn't finished yet." Wait, you think the story is over now? Oh no, my dear ones, now comes the truly clever part. Stay tuned, because you won't believe what happened next. In the following weeks, exactly what I expected happened. Klaus immediately contacted a fellow lawyer and began legal proceedings to contest the will. He claimed I was not mentally competent and had been manipulated by Anna. Petra joined the lawsuit and told anyone who would listen that a Polish nurse had taken advantage of her mother. Thomas even started a small media campaign, telling people on Facebook how terrible it was when strangers exploited old, confused people. They were so caught up in their anger and greed that they didn't realize how much they exposed themselves. Suddenly, they showed up at my house every day, not out of love, but to convince me to change the will. Klaus brought flowers and pretended to be the loving son. Petra suddenly cooked for me and constantly talked about how much she had missed me. Thomas called daily and told me how important family was. Anna remained a rock through all of it. She continued to visit regularly, even though my children insulted and attacked her. She endured their accusations with a dignity that made me proud. One day Klaus said to her, "You know exactly what you're doing. You're exploiting an old lonely woman." Anna replied calmly, "I love your mother because she is a wonderful person. I'm sorry you can't see that." The court date was set for June. I was nervous, but not for the reason they thought. I had recorded every conversation from the past few months. Yes, you heard that right. Old Margaret, had used a small recorder, a gift from Heinrich for my 60th birthday that I had never used. Every greedy word, every calculating remark, every lie about their sudden love for me, all of it was on tape. On the day of the hearing, my children appeared with their lawyers, elegantly dressed and full of confidence. They were sure they would win. The old judge, Dr. Brown, had known me for years. Heinrich and I had often played cards with him and his wife. Klaus presented his arguments. His mother had not been competent after the heart attack. The Polish nurse had manipulated her, and it was unnatural to leave the entire estate to a stranger. Then it was my turn. I stood up. Anna had helped me into my nicest dress, the blue one Heinrich always loved, and said, "Your Honour, I would like to play you something." I pulled out the little recorder, and the courtroom went dead silent. What followed were 20 minutes of the most devastating self-exposure you can imagine. Klaus's voice. "Mum, if you don't change the will, we'll put you in a nursing home. Then you can see what it's like to be truly alone." Petra's voice. "That Polish slut has scrambled your brain. When you die and she has everything, she'll forget you fast." Thomas's voice. "I can't believe you're so stupid you'd give all your money to a stranger instead of helping your own children." But that wasn't all. I had also recorded their conversations with each other when they thought I was in the bathroom. "Klaus, as soon as the old woman's dead, we'll sell everything right away and split the cash." Petra, "Hopefully it won't take much longer. She's getting harder to deal with." Thomas, Maybe we should call less. Then she might die faster from loneliness. The courtroom was paralysed. Even my children's lawyers stared at the floor in shame. Judge Dr. Brown shook his head in disbelief. My children sat there as if petrified, their faces chalk white. Anna cried quietly, but not out of grief, out of compassion for me. Your Honour, I said in a steady voice, I am not senile, not manipulated, and not confused. I am a mother who realised the children she raised have become heartless, greedy people. Anna Kowalski has shown me more love and respect than my own children have in the last 3 years combined. She deserves my estate because she won my heart, not my bank account. Judge Dr. Braun needed only 5 minutes to decide. The will was valid, the challenge was dismissed, and my children were ordered to pay court costs. When the ruling was announced, Klaus broke down. Petra screamed at me, "You'll pay for this!" "You'll die alone." Thomas only said, "You're not my mother anymore." But you know what? Their words didn't hit me. I felt free, strong, finally alive again. Anna hugged me, and for the first time since Heinrich's death, I didn't feel alone. The story could have ended there, but fate had one last surprise in store. A surprise even I hadn't planned. 3 months after the hearing, my phone rang. It was Klaus. His voice sounded broken, desperate. "Mum," he said, "I need to talk to you. Please." I hesitated, but something in his voice made me give in. An hour later, he stood at my door, not the arrogant, successful lawyer, but a broken, middle-aged man with tears in his eyes. "Mom," he said and collapsed, "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life." What had happened? Klaus's life had completely fallen apart after the hearing. His wife had left him. She was horrified by the recordings and couldn't live with a man who treated his own mother that way. His children, my grandkids, wanted nothing to do with him. His law firm had lost several major clients because the story spread around Munich. "Nobody wants a lawyer who cheats his own mother," he sobbed. But that wasn't all. Petra also ran into trouble. Her husband, a respected surgeon, filed for divorce. Her colleagues at the hospital treated her coldly once the story got out. Thomas's startup went bankrupt because his investors pulled out. Nobody wanted to do business with someone who abandons his sick mother. "Mum," Klaus pleaded, "I know I don't deserve it, but can you forgive me? I was so blind, so greedy. I forgot what you taught me, that family isn't just blood, it's love, respect, and care." He told me Petra and Thomas wanted to come too, but didn't dare. They were too ashamed of what they had done. I sat there and looked at my eldest son kneeling before me, begging for forgiveness. Part of me felt quiet triumph. My revenge had worked perfectly. But another part, the motherly part that never fully disappears, felt pity. "Klaus," I finally said, "stand up. A man who is my son does not kneel." What I did next will surprise you. I forgave him. Not immediately, not without conditions, but I opened the door a crack. "If you really mean it," I said, "then prove it. Not with words, but with actions. Anna will remain my main heir, that does not change. But if you 3 can learn what true love means, then maybe we can become a family again." In the months that followed, something wonderful happened. My children, all 3, really began to change. Klaus came for Sunday lunch every week, not to talk about money, but to spend time with me. He told me about his problems, his fears, his plans to rebuild his life. Petra began visiting regularly, and for the first time in years we had real conversations, not shallow chatter, but deep, honest talks about life, about love, about family. Thomas surprised me most. He moved back to Munich and found a job as a programmer. Not for the money, he knew he wouldn't inherit anything, but because he realized he wanted to spend time with me while he still could. "Mum," he said one day, "I don't want to miss the last years of your life. I've already missed too much." And Anna? She became the bridge that brought my family back together. Instead of being jealous or suspicious, she welcomed my children with open arms. She invited them to the dinners she cooked for me. She shared her stories and traditions with them. Slowly, very slowly, Klaus, Petra and Thomas learned from her what unconditional love really means. Last month something happened that nearly made my heart burst. Anna came to me and said, "Mrs. Zimmerman, I have a request." I thought she wanted to talk about the inheritance, but that wasn't it. "I want you to change my will," she said. "If anything happens to me, everything should go to your children. They are your family, and family is sacred." I cried when she said that. This young woman, who owned nothing but a big heart, was willing to give up a fortune to help a broken family come back together. In that moment I knew my revenge was complete, not because I had punished my children, but because they had learned what true love is. But I wasn't done with surprises. On my 66th birthday last month, I invited everyone, Klaus, Petra, Thomas, and of course Anna. We all sat around the big dining table Heinrich had bought 30 years ago, and I stood to make an announcement. "My dear ones," I began, "a year ago I thought I had lost my family. Today I know I only had to find it again, and it has gotten bigger. I took out a new will I had quietly prepared. Anna will still inherit a large share of my estate," I said, "because she deserves it, and because she showed me that family isn't defined only by blood. But you, my children, won't be forgotten either, not because of money, but because you showed that people can change, that remorse can be real, and that love is stronger than pride." Klaus received the house at Lake Tegernsee, not as an investment, but with the condition that it be used for family gatherings, so future generations could learn what family means. Petra received my jewellery collection and an account for her children's education, but with the condition that she help Anna finance her medical studies. Thomas got Heinrich's workshop and the garage with all his tools. Heinrich had always dreamed one of his sons would share his passion for fixing things, but the most important piece was a new clause in my will. When I die, all four, Klaus, Petra, Thomas and Anna, must meet at least once a month and do something good together. Visit a home for the elderly, work in a soup kitchen, visit lonely people. "You must learn," I explained, "that wealth isn't what you own, it's what you give." The reactions were overwhelming. Anna cried with joy, not because of the money, but because she finally had the big family she had always wanted. My children were quiet, thoughtful, but I saw something in their eyes that had been missing for a long time, genuine gratitude and respect. Klaus spoke first. "Mum, I don't know what to say. After what we did, you could have cut us off forever." Petra added, "You taught us a lesson we will never forget, and you gave us Anna, the best sister we could have asked for." Thomas, always the man of few words, simply said, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on us." Today, 3 months later, I can say my plan worked perfectly. Not just the revenge, that was only the beginning. The true goal was to save my family. Every Sunday we all gather for lunch. Klaus brings his kids, who are finally getting to know their grandmother for real. Petra comes with her new partner, a nurse she met at the hospital who took to Anna immediately. Thomas has opened a small workshop where he repairs elderly people's appliances for free, exactly what his father would have done. And Anna. She has started medical school, with Petra's help and the support of the whole family. She lives with me now in the big house, not as a nurse or an heir, but as the daughter fate gave me when I needed her most. But the most important change is that they all learn to look beyond their own needs. Last month we visited the nursing home together, the place I might have ended up after the heart attack. My children saw the lonely old people there and finally understood what I had gone through. Klaus now organises regular legal clinics for seniors who can't afford lawyers. Petra runs an open clinic for patients in need. Thomas built an app that connects lonely seniors with young volunteers. Sometimes, when we all sit together and laugh, I think of that dark day in the hospital when I thought I would die alone. I was wrong. I will not die alone. I will die surrounded by people who love me, not because of my money, but in spite of my flaws, because of my strengths, and simply because I am their mother. My revenge was perfect, but not in the way I planned. I wanted to punish my children, but instead I saved them. I wanted to hurt them, but instead I showed them how to love. And I learned that the best revenge sometimes is giving people the chance to change. Now when I lie in bed at night, not alone anymore because Anna is next door and the kids call every evening, I think of Heinrich. I believe he would be proud of me, not for the clever revenge, but because I saved our family, because I was strong enough to forgive without forgetting, because I made a stranger my daughter and raised my children into better people. The story could have ended differently. I could have disowned my children forever. I could have stayed bitter and alone. But sometimes, my dears, sometimes it pays to believe in the good in people, even when they've disappointed us. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't punishment, but transformation. This morning Anna brought me a cup of coffee, like she does every morning. "Good morning, Mum," she said. Yes, she calls me Mum now, and every time it makes my heart swell. Then the phone rang. It was Klaus. "Mum, how are you today? Can I do anything for you?" An hour later, Petra called. "Mum, I just wanted to check if everything's okay." And in the afternoon, Thomas stopped by to fix a dripping faucet he noticed last time. They don't call anymore because they have to. They call because they want to. They don't visit out of duty, but out of love. And that, my dears, that is the sweetest revenge of all. So, what's the moral of my story? Sometimes we have to show people what they stand to lose before they can value what they have. Sometimes we have to be tough to be kind. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, but the chance for forgiveness and a new beginning. If you liked my story, share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more true-to-life stories. And most of all, call your parents, visit them, show them they matter to you before it's too late. Because in the end, family is the only thing that truly counts. Not money, not success, but the people who love us even when we aren't perfect. I am Margaret, 66 years old, and that was my story of betrayal, revenge, and in the end, forgiveness. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and your loved ones, and remember, it's never too late for a fresh start, never too late for forgiveness, and never too late for love.